Hey,
I need to haze with some of y'all.
Got people over there, and there's people over there, and they pay, right?
Yeah.
Y'all pay, so y'all should get a chance to see and hear the speaker also, right? Did you guys pay? Y'all pay too, so y'all should get a chance. Okay, so I'm not going to stand behind the podium, but I'll try to make sure I talk to you guys too, and so that you guys, and even those folks, you guys pay back there too, right? Yeah, so y'all need to see and hear too every now and then, right? Okay, so everybody can see and hear, and I'll try to be conscious of keeping the microphone up, okay? So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi, and especially men of the -24, it is a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you to celebrate 50 years in Kappa Alpha Psi. That is a big deal, a really big deal. Anything that you do for 50 years is a big deal. If you celebrate the 50-year high school education thing, that's a big deal. If you've been married for 50 years, that's even a bigger deal. But anything that you do for 50 years is a big deal. And to be a member of Kappa Alpha Psi for 50 years, that's a big deal. I was blessed to be able to celebrate my 50 years last year, so I've got 51 years in, and I make sure I show deference to Brother Beavers because it's very, very seldom. Matter of fact, one of the first times I've been the oldest brother in the room, and I just don't know how to deal with that part. But it's obvious I got the white jacket, so I must be the oldest brother in the room. But if you're going to get a white jacket in Kappa Alpha Psi and to be around for 50 years, there's a couple of things that you got to do, guys. Okay, so. Let me get this watch out of my hand. These Apple things, they're always trying to interfere with you. So it's turned off. So Siri won't be saying anything like that. But to be around for 50 years in the frat, the first thing, if you want to have 50 years in the frat, you've got to pledge when you're really young, and you've got to live a long life. Okay? You got to pledge when you're really young, and then you've got to be blessed to live a long, long, long life. Now, I got online when I was about 13, so you know. Really, it was when I was about 17, because I was just like a whole bunch, well, like most men. When we're 18 to 22 years old, 24, 25, we're searching. We're trying to find our way, trying to find out what it's like to be a man. How do you get to be successful? How do you achieve? How do you do things? And if you don't doubt me, then look around at your nephews, your grandsons, anybody you know in that age group, and you can see they've got that kind of anxiousness. They don't know what they're going to do next. They're trying to find their way, and they're trying to find somebody to follow, a group to be a part of. Some join gangs, some go to the army, some go to college and join fraternities like Kappa Alpha Psi. When that was my thing, when I was young, we were looking for something just like that. Looking for the values and what it would take to be a man. See, most of you guys, at least the guys who are about to get a white jacket, you're children of the 70s like me. And if you're children of the 70s, you just came through the civil rights era. And now all of a sudden, we were getting a chance to go to school. Now, you hear kids nowadays talk about how tough it is for them. Well, when we came from school, we had a couple of choices. You only had really 3 choices when you graduated from high school in the 70s. You could enlist and go into the service. You could more likely get drafted and go to the service. Or you could go to college and try to make sure you kept your GPA up so that you didn't go to the service. It was going to be one of those things. And going to the service usually meant that you were going to be in infantry, you were going to be out front. And I'm from a military town. I'm from Leavenworth, Kansas, okay? People actually died in that war, okay? When I was a kid, we would have a lot of, there would be traffic jams because we had national cemeteries. And that let me know that wasn't going to be for me, and I was going to have to do whatever I could to stay away from that. All the other men in my family, yes, but for me, it was college. And when I got to college, I met men, young guys who were just like me, trying to find their way. And then one day, Well, I happened to hear that they were having a smoker, you know? Now, a lot of you have a different experience than I have as far as becoming a Kappa. Some of you have a legacy, and you have the joy of having a father, a grandfather, an uncle, or brother, or somebody who's a Kappa. And you always wanted to be a Kappa man. And you grew up all your life and got a chance to be a Kappa man. Some just saw brothers on the yard, and from looking in from the outside, saw those sharp brothers who were running the yard and running the campus and had all the pretty girls, and they were wondering, how can I also get to be one of those? And that's how they ended up joining Kappa. Now for me, I didn't know nothing about black fraternities or black sororities when I got on campus. I had no idea that they existed. But I heard that the Kappas were having a smoker. I thought they were smoking something else, so I went to the meeting. And it turned out that they weren't smoking something else, at least not at that meeting. And I met these guys who were doing all the things that I wanted to aspire to do. Kappa men. And these Kappa men, I mean, all they told me is about all these famous Kappas. So I was hearing about Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell and Cassie Russell and the Stokes brothers in politics. All of these men who were doing great things, and they were members of Kappa Alpha Psi. I wanted to do that exact same thing. Just like you guys did. Wanted to be a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Now, when I first got started with Kappa Alpha Psi, you know, well, they told me that this was, all you had to do is know a few things and you could be a Kappa, you know. And it turned out that wasn't quite right. You know, I know you guys had similar experience because I did some research on some of you Eta Phi brothers to find out what you guys were like so I would know who I was talking to and who I was talking about, because I know a little bit about you brothers, but I don't know a whole lot because I'm from Kansas. When I moved here 25 years ago, beginning of 2000, I knew only one brother in all of DFW, and that brother was Derek Brown. I don't know if you guys knew Derek, but Derek's now at the Golden Shores, and Derek was a member of AGP, Arlington Grand Prairie. Well, Derek had a really good friend that he always hung out with, and they always kept a whole bunch of liquor in the trunk, but they always were hanging out, and one of them's name was Blinky. Now, everybody in town who's a Kappa, I found out knew Blinky. And Blinky knew everybody. And Blinky would spend hours and hours talking about Kappa Alpha Psi. If you were a new brother, old brother, he would spend a lot of time talking to you. Now, I would tell you, when you get on the phone with Blinky, you got to put 30 minutes aside just because it's going to be a long conversation. A long conversation. And I promise you that I won't be like Blinky and talk quite as long as Blinky did. But that was one of the first brothers I met that was from Eta Phi. And after meeting and hearing about Blinky, you know, Blinky talked about his line all the time. And one of the things that was fascinating to me, he told me that one of his line brothers was Harvey Martin. Now, I was from Kansas, so I wasn't down here, but man, I was so excited to find out that Harvey Martin was one of my brothers. He was a Kappa. Man, it couldn't be much better than that. Now, I'm glad I didn't pledge under Harvey Martin, because I can imagine that brother could probably swing a little wood, even if he wasn't supposed to. And I'm sure that would have been, just a little bit of a hard thing for me. But to find out that Harvey was a Kappa, man, I would have loved to have been here in Dallas with you guys when Harvey Martin was like a top defensive lineman in the game, owning restaurants and clubs and stuff. I mean, you guys must have been partying and having a ball. Because I read Harvey's autobiography. Harvey had a good time. He had a real good time. And some of y'all, if you're the line brother to somebody who's having a good time like that would have been cool to have been here and be a part of that. But the one brother that I know from Eta Phi, that I know because he's a part of my chapter at Mansfield Alumni Chapter, is Ralph Green. Ralph's the one who asked me to speak. Now, what the Ralph I see is quiet, wise, patient, doesn't get excited, sits in the back of the room and just lets brothers do their thing. And then, like I said, I was doing my research, so I talked to some of the brothers around me. And I was talking to Brother Michael Myers, a brother from our chapter, and Mike Myers said, well, Vic Ponder would know about those guys. Because Vic had just got his white jacket a while back, so I figured, well, I would talk to Vic. And I got it wrong, because I assumed that Vic had his white jacket already, so Vic must have pledged the -24. And Vic immediately told me, no. It was nothing like that. They pledged me. And he pledged by himself.
Oh, man.
By himself. He has some stories that I can't repeat in public about what you guys did to him. And he said that really Ralph Green was mean green. And he wasn't even the same guy that we knew back in those days. Vic said he used to have him driving from Denton all the way over to Commerce, that they put him in, well, I'm not going to go that far. But y'all have an idea of some of the things that some of y'all know. But Mean Dreams is one of those brothers from Eta Phi who really has impressed me, because I thought he was just so nice and wise and quiet and a wholesome kind of guy. It's good to see the other side of you, Ralph, and know that you're not just all of that. But, getting to know those brothers who started the chapter, that's a big deal. When I came and I started to see that hammer thing, I really was confused. There's a lot of rituals that we have that, depend on the location of the country that you're in, whether you know it or not. But I've lived all over the country and been a part of Capitol, but I've never seen that hammer thing until I got to Commerce and said, what the heck is that? What are these brothers doing? But the good thing is that they formed a chapter, and they formed a chapter for 50 years. I went over at Beta Psi, and we were in a similar situation. We were a colony at Emporia, a colony of K-State, which was in Manhattan, 90 miles away. So I know what it's like to be those first ones who get it started and get that charter started on the campus. That's a big deal. But the best thing was what we learned when we joined Kappa Alpha Psi. See, we were all looking to find our way, to find out how we could become men. And what we found in Kappa Alpha Psi was all the values, all the things that we needed to know to be men. Because we were always training for leadership, always learning about achievement. So let me just take a pause to do some training for leadership, okay? Young brother, whoever told you that you need to stand behind me, told you wrong. You might just go sit and have a good time for a minute, okay? That's good enough, okay? Now, what I found out when I joined Kappa Alpha Psi is that Kappas were about, what's our motto, young brothers? Achievement. Kappas were about achievement. Achievement. And all the Kappas that I know, in one field or some field of human endeavor, they achieve. And they don't just do it when they're undergrads. They keep on doing it even when they graduate, because Kappas are about achievement. Now, I've been around a lot of different organizations, a lot of places, and a lot of folks are about achievement and accomplishing goals, and there's different ways that they do it. If you're in the military, they order you to achieve, and they order you to follow those goals, and if you don't, they will shoot you, put you in the grid, you have no say-so. If you're in corporate America, you're on the job, well, your promotion and your pay can make a difference in whether you achieve or not achieve. But in Kappa Alpha Psi, we achieve differently. See, what we know is that you achieve by having knowledge, because knowledge is power. From the moment that we get online, it's all about learning. It's all about knowledge. Now, some brothers may not realize it, but that's what's really going on. You're learning you learn the alphabet. You learn the founders. You learn all the objectives of Kappa Alpha Psi. You are always about learning and knowledge and getting more and more and more knowledge. Now, for me, that was a good thing, okay? When I got online, they told me I just had to learn what those other guys learned. And when I graduated high school, I was the smartest kid that I knew. So when I looked at those brothers, I said, this is going to be easy. I know I can learn what they learned, okay? And I was so excited about being a Kappa, and I wanted it so bad that when they gave me that scroll manual that first night, brothers, I went and read that book from cover to cover. I knew everything in that because I wanted to be a Kappa man. One of those men who hold chairs for ladies. One of those men who always know how to dress at the right time. One of those kind of men who say please and thank you, make good grades, and achieve. I wanted to be that kind of Kappa man. And I read that book cover to cover. And I went to that first meeting. And remember, I told you I didn't know too much about this pledging and fraternity thing, right? Well, I went to the first meeting, and little brother that was standing next to me, his name was Lewis White. And they had Lewis do something that they call pointing. And they had Lewis point, and they hit Lewis so hard, Lewis jumped up so high, they called him Springs. And I was a little bitty thing, and I was just shocked. You know, and they came to me, and I said, big brother, it says on page 47 in the scroll manual. It says in the scroll manual on page 47 that there's no hazing in Kappa. And the brothers quickly told me, said, Scroller, you can't read. But it was the beginning of learning and picking up knowledge. See, it doesn't really matter what line you're on or when you pledge. Everybody learns something that's for them. And you can be on the same line with somebody else and you have an entirely different experience. Mine was being a little smart ass, thinking that I knew everything. That was what I had to learn. And what I found out that if I knew it all, but my brother next to me didn't know, didn't mean a darn thing, right, brothers? Didn't mean a thing. So I could know everything. And that brother right next to me stumbled, and brothers would go crazy on us. Now, at that point in time, I had a choice. You know, I could just say our line is going to be a dumb line, and we're not going to know the information, we're not going to study. You know, and the brothers are going to, you know, punish us for that. Or we could learn all our information. I could bring those brothers up to my level. And we could learn all of our information. We could be those kind of brothers. And the big brothers were still going to beat us and have their way with us, but it didn't matter. We had a choice in how we were going to do it. And what we learned through Kappa is that knowledge is power, but knowledge doesn't mean a darn thing. And you can't do nothing with it if you don't have other people. All of us need other people. Nobody makes it alone. And that's what I had to find out. And see, that's the special thing about being a Kappa. The way we achieve is by being brothers. The way we achieve is through our fraternity. The way we achieve is that bond that we have. That's how we achieve. We do it differently than other people. And because we are brothers and because we are Kappas, we love each other, we trust each other, we care about each other. When you work with people with that in mind, you get an entirely different outcome. I don't have to worry about whether the brother's going to come through with his part or not because I trust him. We have that kind of relationship. I don't have to worry about whether he'll be there when I need him because I've seen that brother through some hard times. I've seen how he reacted when he was online. And I know that I can count on that brother. And I know he's going to be there for me. And that makes a difference. Now, brothers, I'm not into us hazing. I'm smart enough to know it better than that, okay? I learned a long time ago, just because you can get your butt beat don't make you a good brother. You still don't pay dues, still don't show up. None of that stuff really matters, you know? And I also can tell you that you will be a brother a lot longer than you were ever pledged. But those things that we learn while we are online, that will follow you forever. And there's a way that we can teach and train young brothers to be good brothers, to be good men. If I just beat you up and act all crazy with you and don't teach you nothing, that is hazing. if I'm doing that with a sense of purpose so that you learn something, that's something different. That's pledging. That's what I want you to know about. That's how I want you to have that kind of experience. That is the difference in Kappa Alpha Psi. We recognize that achievement is important. Achievement is important, but you only achieve if first you get some knowledge and you work with others and they can trust you and you can trust them. That's how it works, brothers. And if you follow that mode, you will have no problems with Kappa Alpha Psi. You can trust me and believe me because I'm $1 million Kappa. I get more out of Kappa than anybody I know because the more you give, the more you get. And I try to give that much to Kappa Alpha Psi so I can get it back. You know? Now, brothers, our age, my age, okay? Sometimes we start to think that, well, now I done got to be 50, 60, 70, whatever, and now it's over for me. I'm here to tell you that, no, it's not over for you. What I want to do is challenge older brothers. I want to challenge those brothers who are about to get their 50-year jacket. I really don't care whether you've been financial over the last 50 years, if you've been to all the meetings, missed all the meetings, or any of that stuff. I know you're my brother, you cross the sands, and I know what values you have ingrained in you. What I don't want you to do is just leave them in you and not do anything with it just because you've reached a certain age, just because you've gotten a white jacket. What I think is that a senior Kappa, us older brothers, we have a lot to offer. A lot to offer to young brothers. They don't even know how much we have to offer. We have a lot. If you're here getting a 50-year jacket, that means you probably at least lived 2, if not 3 generations. If a generation is every 20, 25 years, you've seen some stuff. You know how things work. And if you happen to be here today, if you happen to be here right now, I don't care whether you've had a divorce, a bankruptcy, a health issue, whatever it might have been, if you're still here today, that means you got over it, right? That means you know something and you know how to handle it, right? That means you have something that you can pass on to young folks. Because one thing that I find out is that a lot of things that I think I just know because I'm so smart or because everybody should know it, no, somebody taught me too. Somebody had to train me. Somebody had to tell me to keep the microphone up all the time. I mean, it's like that for all of us. But as older brothers, we have something that we can offer the young brothers. I encourage you to get involved with the undergrad. Get involved in their life. And undergrads, don't be so young that you don't realize what you have in front of you. If you go look at the history of Kappa Alpha Psi, the history of Omega Psi Phi, any of the organizations, what you will find out is that all of them started the same way, with young brothers and old brothers working together. For us, it was the Dreamer, okay? The Dreamer was 29 years old when the frat was founded. Byron K was his main boy. Byron K was 19 years old. 10 years age difference. When you're 20, that's a big deal. Now, when you're 50 and 60, 10 years ain't that big of a deal. But when you're that young, it was the same thing with the Qs. It was older brothers helping younger brothers. That's always been the working example. Older brothers have the wisdom, younger brothers have all of that energy. Because we don't have all that energy when we get this age, but we do have the wisdom. The great thing about 50 years in the frat, the great thing is that you get a chance to have a platform where you can do all kinds of things for your entire life. You can't just go out and mentor kids on your own very often because people just don't do that. But if an organization, you'll do that. You don't go out and do community service on your own very often, but with an organization, you do that. And with Kappa Alpha Psi, you can do those kinds of things. This is the only place where I can go and be a 69-year-old man and have 20-year-olds pay attention to me. Have 40-year-olds listen to me. Have even 50-year-olds listen to me. This is the only place. I get a chance to still mentor those guys who are in their 50s, who are mentoring hopefully those guys in their 30s, who are mentoring the younger ones, who can handle the capital leaders. With this platform, we get to do that for a lifetime. For a lifetime. And it just doesn't happen like that anywhere else. So I encourage you to get involved and stay involved. And for old brothers to realize that you have been blessed to reach a new level. You don't have to worry about fighting and trying to be the pole mark no more, because you ain't going to be the pole mark. If you ain't the grand pole mark by now, it ain't going to happen. Just like on your job, if you ain't the CEO, it ain't going to happen. You know, you move over and do something different. So now, instead of being the guys who get out there, you know, for the Greek showdowns and do all the little shimmy stuff that they do now, you know, we're too old for that. You get to be the older guys who do something else. And if you're blessed, you get a chance to be a cap in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. Each decade is different. But brothers, when you get up to that 50-year jacket, and you get around for a long time, now you have the opportunity to plant seeds. Now you have the opportunity to really encourage the young brothers to make a difference. Because unlike your kids at home, it's in the flat, you know, just behind deference they'll listen to you. So you can always get their ear. And you can always begin to make a difference. I think that wise old men plant trees and plant seeds that they'll never enjoy the shade from. And that's the exact same thing we can do with these young folks. We can plant seeds in them that will generate and will grow and produce the kind of world that we want to see in the future. We may not be there to enjoy it, but we can start to plant the seeds. I think that's what responsible, compassionate, old black men do. And I think that's what we should all do for our young brothers. Remember, the template had always been the old brothers and the young brothers. The old ones and the young ones, brothers. So let's make sure that we celebrate this idea of having 50 years in the frat by really recommitting ourselves to Kappa Alpha Psi, to the objectives of Kappa Alpha Psi, to be what we call good news. You know, brothers, I'm getting up in age, and with this whole COVID stuff, you know, people have been dying left and right and all that kind of stuff. And it really always makes you face your own mortality. I celebrated my mom's 94th birthday 2 days ago.
Awesome.
And she still lives by herself. She still dresses herself. She's in her right mind completely, all of that. At 94 years old, okay? My brothers and sisters all got a chance to come down and hang out, and we just had a ball. But the reality is that we all get old and we all pass away, and some of the people that I've seen pass away recently, they didn't have anybody there. And it might be like that for me, because I plan to be healthy as can be, and I want to be retired and healthy as long as I work. That means 40 years. That means I have to be about 103 years old. At that rate, probably most of my family will be gone. But what I do know and what I do expect is there will be some Kappas there. There will be some Kappas there. I've been a part of giving white coats to all kinds of brothers, whether they're financial, not financial, some even in hospice. And I know that's what Kappa Alpha Psi is about. So even when my family's gone and nobody else is going to be there, I know that they'll do the rituals and there'll be some young Kappas there. And they'll see me over to the Golden Shore, because that's what it's like to be a Kappa man. For you brothers who have 24 years in Kappa, man, you guys are so lucky and so blessed. There is nothing like having a white jacket, even if it's a little long. It's a big thing, you know? Because it means that you've been around and been a part of Kappa Alpha Psi for that long. 50 years. 50 years, brothers. That's a long time to have friendships, to have people who know you, people who care about you. I'm going to tell you one last story and then I'm going to end, because It exemplifies what 50 years of brotherhood and 50 years of Phi Nu Pi has been for me in my life, and what I hope for you guys in your life. I've got great brothers, great friends, so many best friends that, the list is too long. But back in March, I was in Vegas with one of my line brothers and another best friend who's the first guy that I met, first guy that took over. 3 of us, Lewis, Kurt, and Michael. We're at Vegas, and we weren't at Vegas to do that Vegas kind of stuff. We were at Vegas just because we were brothers and we hang out because our birthdays are close by. Well, it turns out that, Kurt was going through a divorce, and so he was in a bachelor apartment, which is kind of cool. And we did that part, but he was asking about what it was like to be from a divorced family, because my folks are divorced. And he was worried about his son who had just become a Kappa and how he was going to deal with this new family divorce. And at that exact same time, my mom calls, my birth mom calls with my brothers and sisters to tell me about the status of my stepmother who was in hospice, okay? Now that's a big deal in the first place, that my birth mother even gives a darn about my stepmother, even though it's under deathbed, okay? But that's how far the family had evolved, okay? Now, exactly while I was talking to them about how important mothers were to me, I got another call. And my mother had passed. And when Kurt's mother passed a few years back, we were all together then. Last year, right after I got my white jacket, as we put Lewis on the airplane with his white jacket, his mother died. So when my mother died, I was with 3 of my best friends, who also happen to be 3 Kappa brothers. And we all have experienced each other's mothers when they died. Brothers, you can't get no better support than that. If I get nothing else out of Kappa Alpha Psi than that, that would be more than enough. More than enough. But you only get that kind of Kappa experience, young brothers, if you give as much as you get, okay? You gotta give as much, and then you'll get as much. There was one time when I was hanging with a brother and his mother passed away, okay? A couple of months later, the brother had a baby being born, and he didn't have his mother to be there to say, how much did the baby weigh? How long is the baby? What color are the eyes? And all that stuff. 3 o'clock in the morning while we're hanging out getting drunk and he's complaining, I gave him my mother. And my mother called him and treated him like she would treat me. That's the power of the bond. That's the power. That's how we give to each other. You give what hurts to another brother. Don't give that stuff that you don't care about anyway. Give what hurts, what's in your heart. That's what you give. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers, I could talk to you all night long because I will wear out a sympathetic ear. Just to talk about Kappa Alpha Psi in 50 years, I will talk to you forever. But I know that that's not my purpose. So what I do want to tell you though is, thank you for having me here. I hope I said something that touched you or that resonated with you, that you remember. If you remember nothing else, brothers, remember, we're about achievement, and we achieve differently than everybody else. We achieve by being brothers, and brothers that can be counted on. That's how we do it in Kappa Alpha Psi, okay?
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kappa Alpha Psi brothers and sisters, hey, I say yo.
Yo!
Should we one more hand for the Brundy, please? All right, now moving forward with our program, I'll ask Brother Rob Green for the Chapter Invisible Observer.
Green.